How's it going? Wooden Spoon SuperCoach here. Just me today. Mac doesn't want to show his face after being all in on the drinky pick for the last couple of months. You can't blame him though. I went there too. It made sense and it's injury affected. It's just bad luck. It's just SuperCoach. We'll get into the results shortly, but just quickly, the prize pool has gone up by $6.30, and all of that was thanks to Project Spartan. He took the Knights and the Dragons both with the plus line, which pushes him into third place. Good to have you back, bro. He is a commenter from last year. I really appreciate seeing some familiar faces returning for the second year of the channel. Very cool to see. So keep it up, Spartan, and everyone else. The contributions this year have already been really good. I think we're quite easily going to push this $1,000 mark this year at this rate. Don't forget to leave your bets in the comments for round one. You can pick a head-to-head, a line, first try scorer. A hat trick on Alex Johnston for him to break the record would be fucking elite if anyone's keen on doing that. But yeah, leave them down in the comments and I'll put those on for you this weekend. So let's get into the fucking carnage of round zero, shall we? Starting off with the Knights and the Cowboys. Kalen Ponga was the guy to pick, 116. A lot of people who had him would have had the VC on him. You absolutely take that loop. I think in round one, 100 is fine. You take that loop. It's nice and safe. I'm relying on Payne Haas to have a big game now. Not that I'm concerned with him being able to do that. He's an actual beast. Trey Mooney crashing over the line for a 94 is exactly what we want to see. He's in basically everyone's squad, so that's a good little bit of cash gen to kick him off. He did get a try and a line break with that, but even if you take that away, that's still about a 60 and would be very happy with that considering his price. Dom Young had a good game, 94. There were some people talking about him as a pod, and you definitely take a 94. We just want to see some consistency. Dom Young is very try reliant. Dylan Lucas at 73. He seemed to get that 73 without really doing anything at all. So that's exactly what you want to see. It looks like another year where if he crashes over, it's a relatively easy ton. So if the Knights can keep up this kind of form, I'll definitely be targeting him. Greg Marzu as well has a very decent work rate. Don't mind that pick either. Fletcher Sharp. Oh my God, what could have been? Until he went off the field, I was thinking, holy shit, I need to move heaven and earth to get this guy into my team. He looked so electric. He was in everything. That try he scored was just amazing. This is another injury on his record, though, so we are seeing that he's a little bit fragile with these kind of things. But honestly, if I'm in a position to trade him in when he's back, I'm probably just going to do it. That 61 isn't going to hurt his rolling average or anything that much. So I'll definitely be eyeing off a Cody Walker to Fletcher Sharp trade in the future. Bradman Best, yeah, I suppose, like, if you picked him, you'd be happy with a 61, but, like, I don't know. I don't think we're going to see many high ceiling games from him. And then getting down here, we're slowly losing relevance. Dylan Brown at 46 looks to be more of an organizer than anything. Maybe we start to see him develop a bit more of a running game, but he is playing halfback, not 5'8", so I wouldn't be surprised if these are the kind of performances we can see from him going forward. And you also wouldn't want it to be like a Roosters of the last few years type of situation where there seems to be too many cooks in the kitchen and just too much going on at once in general. So, look, it's working. It'll be interesting to see how his role develops. Jermaine McEwen with a 43. His break-even was literally 42. So, I don't think many people ended up going with him, and that was probably the right decision. Sandon Smith was never really relevant as soon as he was named on the bench. Even coming on for a majority of the game, 42, it's just not quite enough. Helam Lukey, 95. I think a lot of people who don't have him, including me, are going to be scrambling to get him for price changes. If he manages to score again next week, his break-even is going to be so negative and is almost going to be a must-have at that point, even if he doesn't perform well after, because he's guaranteed that cash injection. Tom Chester with a 62, you'd be very happy with. I was this close to putting him in. But again, with the player whose name is escaping me, coming back in a couple of weeks, he could very easily get pushed out of the squad. So that 62 that pushes his break-even down may not even net you any cash if he falls out of the team and doesn't play for round 3. Reed Marnie with a 52, it's good enough to start with. Hopefully the Cowboys can kind of get their shit together and get their attack working. There wasn't really many opportunities for Reed Marnie to get a quick play the ball and play off the back of that. So if we see a little bit of that, his scores could easily improve. Jackson Purdue with a 42 isn't the end of the world, but you're definitely not stoked with it. That is below what he's priced at. He's going to have to do something next week if he's going to get that break even down low. I'm kind of happy that I moved off him. Especially after seeing how the Cowboys performed. Little bit concerned. It is a 5'8 slot that's a little bit duddy, and he can come out any week and score a ton. So I wouldn't be too upset. What I am upset about, though, is Scott Drinkwater with a 21. Oh, man. SuperCoach is a cruel, cruel game. Starting off with this is just not what you want. We do have the flex, so he's likely to drop out. But yeah, I'm already of the opinion that I'm going to sell him. He's going to have to do a lot to balance out that break even and not drop a lot of cash once it comes to price changes. And at this point of the year, money is more important than points. So I think I will just have to pull the trigger and sell him. Probably to a Ponga if he manages to keep this up. But we still have the majority of fullbacks to play. Maybe one comes out and scores an 150 and puts Ponga's score to shame. Still a lot to play out. Moving over to the Bulldogs. Jacob Kiraz with the 99. We've just come to expect that from him. I was a little concerned about his preseason with that back injury, but that doesn't look to be a concern at the moment. There was one try where he scored it and landed on his shoulder, and he looked a little bit ginger after that. So I am kind of glad I'm in a position where I get to just watch him. But if he is screaming out for me to buy him, then I can quite easily drop Drinkwater down to a Ponga or whoever and upgrade one of my center wings that are underperforming to Kiraz. This is what the first couple of rounds are for. Fix up your mistakes, get your team to where you'd like it. Viliami Kikau with a 98. He looked absolutely damaging, as well as Preston. Those guys are just weapons. I don't think you'd be upset with having either of them in your team, even if they did score like a 70 or a 60. They're definitely passing the eye test. Galvin, 77 for him is good, but I just need to see it a little bit more before I can have a solid opinion on him. Stephen Crichton with a 68. It is decent, and I know in the last video when Mac mentioned him, I was like, oh yeah, that could be a good option, but at 600k, he does need to be getting these kind of scores week on week on week to be making any kind of money, but at this price point, it is more about scoring points. So yeah, I'm not entirely sold on Crichton, but I can definitely see why people are picking him. Bailey Hayward with a 50. People are kind of shitting on Bailey Hayward because he did nothing in attack and was just tackling. He still scored about the same as Marnie and is 50k cheaper than him. So in this game, at least, he did better than Marnie. So if you did go with him, I wouldn't be too upset with it. But Marnie definitely does have much more of a ceiling than Hayward will. He's going to be a slow burn and peak at maybe 450k and then you sell him. So definitely not the worst option, but not the best. Somewhere smack bang in the middle. We'll start at the bottom of the Dragons. Dan Atkinson with a 32 is kind of a concern. It is his debut. He's a young player. It's Vegas. I can't remember who I watched that had this opinion, but they reckon that Flano just told him, do the simple stuff, guide the team around, kick on the fifth, and hopefully we see him kind of add more strings to his bow as the year goes on. Otherwise, he's going to be a very, very slow burn that we're going to get about 100k out of, which is not ideal. I'm already teeing up a trade where I swap him and Ethan Sanders so that Atkinson's in flex, and then I bring in Ryan Couchman instead, who I suppose we'll talk about now. Ryan Couchman, 71, 50 points over his break even. If he scores even 40 or 45 next week, he will be one of the cheapies to get in round 3. Another guy that I was so close to starting with, but then didn't because I was worried about the bench. This game going to extra time definitely does inflate the scores, but if he's consistently scoring 60s or even 50s, gun option, going to make heaps of money and going to do it quickly. Then we've got Toby Couchman, 588k, break even of 60, scoring a 71. That's really good, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes on to do this week on week. Again, the extra time sort of score boost there. So I'm not too upset to miss out on him. Probably won't be targeting him. I think I'm happy with my forwards. But if you've got him, definitely won't be upset with it. Damien Cook, 526k, also scoring 50 points over his break even. This could be another play coming into price changes. If he has another gun week next week, I'm going to have to look up when Jacob Little is due back. Okay, Jacob Little's back round 2, so probably not a guy we're going to be looking to target, even for that initial price rise, because then he's just going to peter out, and then you're going to have to trade him out. And that is too many trades to be spending at hooker, that's for sure. Who else have we got here? Hamish Stewart with a 57. 16 points over his break even. If he can continue to do that, then great. Like I've already said though, with this game going to extra time and the increased minutes, he might end up scoring a little bit closer to his break even next week. So at that awkward price, probably wouldn't be too stoked if I was an owner of him. I wouldn't be looking to trade him out immediately. He could improve over the year, but also a downgrade to Ryan Couchman could be quite juicy there. Val Holmes with a 54 was underwhelming. I wasn't looking at him too closely, but maybe we're just seeing that injury from the preseason hampering him a little bit, which is why I didn't pick him. So the fact that I've gone away from these guys with injury concerns in the preseason has paid off in one section and hasn't in the other. So I've missed out on Kiraz, but I've also dodged Holmes. It is only one score, so we don't want to overreact too quickly. But yeah, I'd be disappointed with that score in my team. Leilua got his 10 points of value, but in an 80-minute game, we could probably see him go down towards his actual value. I could definitely see the appeal in the preseason, and I had him in my team for a little bit, but I just thought I could do better, so didn't end up going there. So that's all for those two games. Congrats if you dodged Drinky or if you had Ponga, and unlucky if you're like me and had that score of 21 in your BC. Not ideal. Let's move over to the teams lists. So starting off with Storm and the Eels, with Lomax rightfully being barred from the comp until 2028, unless Paris says otherwise. Moses Leo gets the centre spot until Coates is back in round 10. I'm worried about Melbourne this year, but every time I've ever thought that, they've just chugged along and done all right. I fucking hate them, but they are a really good club, so you got to respect it at least. Moving down to the forwards for Melbourne, Lasardi has ended up getting the right edge spot, which aligns with what we thought at the start of the year, but goes against what we've thought recently. Joe Chan gets the left edge, and honestly, I'm happy to go without both to start until Trent's back from suspension, and one of them gets pushed out heading into round 3 and the price changes. It's very convenient that Trent does come back heading into round 3, so we can make that decision if one of them has a massive break even, but we don't know which one's going to drop out of the squad. It's just nice that we've got that flexibility. Hopefully he doesn't get a layoff extension or whatever, and we do actually get those questions answered heading into round 3 and no later. Weirdly enough, in the notes down here, it says that with Jack Howarth, groin, and Xavier Coates Achilles both sidelined, but Howarth is named, so I don't know what's going on there. Maybe some weirdness. It is Melbourne after all. Over at the Eels, their round 1 squad doesn't have a whole lot of relevance. The crowd has faded Moses and Hopgood, both still pickable, but I can see why people have moved away. Iongi is a decent pod, but again, I can understand why he's only 3%. There are a few positions that pick themselves to a certain extent this year, but in saying that, at the same time, there is a lot of variety, which I love to see. We do also have Sean Russell coming in for Josh Addo-Carr with his broken thumb. Not really relevant. Yeah, I don't think there's really too much else to go on about for the Eels, so we'll move on to the Warriors and the Roosters. Jacob Laban has made it into the starting squad, but I don't think he'll get the minutes to be an option, especially with the other cheap options we have at second row forward. There has been a bit of a shake-up in the popular cheapies in the 2RF, so we'll get to that eventually. But yeah, Jacob Laban doesn't stand out to me as a pickable guy. For the rest of the Roosters, honestly, Aaron Clark, he's pickable. But yeah, there's just not really a whole lot SuperCoach relevant going on here. Nothing surprising at the Roosters either, but it's great to see Cody Ramsey down here named. So hopefully we can see him get back on the field. That would be a real feel-good story. I'm not sure how this is pronounced. Is it Yoelu? Loelu? I think it's Yoelu. Yoelu, whatever. You know who I'm talking about. He starts in place of Reece Robson. A lot of people are using him as a replacement for Cheese. Very solid cheapy pick, but I don't know enough about his role to confidently say if he's a slam dunk pick or not. We could see him be like a Bailey Hayward and literally just shoveling the ball off the ground. I didn't take too much notice of him in the trials. My bad. There's definitely part of me that wishes I went there just because the Cowboys are looking lackluster and I've got Marnie. He still scored a little bit over his value, so not as bad as the Drinky pick. But who could have seen that coming? You cannot blame anyone for going there. It's probably all we really need to go over here as well. So we'll move on to the Broncos and the Panthers. Nothing really too SuperCoach relevant going on in this game. No surprises for the Broncos. Tulty on the bench is a watch, but with the new 6-man bench, picking him comes with risk. Likewise with the Panthers, nothing out of the ordinary. Kalani Going is named on the bench though, So watch out if you've picked him as enough. That could cause some headaches. But yeah, both of these squads lining up pretty much how we expected. Nothing surprising there, so we can move on. Sharks and Titans. Sharks also rolling out as expected, with Stone Street lining up outside of Iro, Colhoun at lock. Both are pickable, but with the plethora of cheapies at center wing, I don't think there's much room for Stone Street. Maybe if he has a quiet opening few rounds and bottoms out, we could have a look at him. But yeah, with your Faymanis, your Macassinis, your Moses Leos, there's just so many options for cheap guys to make money in center wing. Can't really get around picking Stone Street anymore. And yeah, Colhoun at lock, nice. Nothing much else to go over. For the Titans, if you saw a red circle next to Faymani's name in SuperCoach, don't stress, he is named. That would have been brutal if we missed out on him. But luckily, that's not something we have to concern ourselves with. Ilias takes over Jaden Campbell, who has a hamstring complaint. I'd be looking elsewhere if you own Campbell. Reports say anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks for him, so who knows where it's actually going to fall. Going Ilias from the start, again, it's the same kind of thing. If Campbell is back in round 3, then Ilias doesn't get that initial price rise, and it's just, there's better options. Now, down in the forwards, it starts to get interesting. Arama Howe has got the edge spot over Josh Patson, and should get a 2RF duel, and buys on the bench as expected. You might think that Patson is just being covered for because SuperCoach has him labelled out with a head knock, but he's named in the reserves, so I don't think that's the case. There are a couple of other injured blokes for round 1 named in the reserves, so I don't know how much weight that carries. But there has been a little bit of talk that this might happen, so I'm comfortable enough putting Howe in my team. Only available at front row forward at this point, but he should get that duel. My plan around this, having both Patson and Cooper Bye, is to nuff out Patson for Miles Martin and swap in Arama Howe for Leafy from Manly, and then hopefully those duels come in and give us a bit of flexibility. Speaking of Leafy, I think I keep saying his name differently. I haven't quite got the muscle memory in my mouth for him yet. That's sus. Moving on. Yeah, with Leafy not named in the team at all, not in the reserves or anything, maybe he becomes relevant towards the Origin period or later in the year. Could definitely happen, so we'll definitely watch that space. Nothing surprising going on for Manly. Joey Walsh named at 14. I love to see. I would have loved to have seen him start over Brooks, but realistically, he's our future halfback, not our future 5'8". They're not the same thing, so at least he's getting some first grade experience here. I can't be too mad about that. For the Raiders, Tamale returns to the wing, and Sasagi covers for Timoko until his return for round 2. Noah Martin comes in for Nicholson, who's expected to return in round 2. Noah Martin is 2% owned. Don't be fooled. It's a trap. Clear as day trap. Get him out of your team. If you want a nuff, go his brother. And he'd be a terrible nuff anyway because he's 250k. So get him out of your teams. There's absolutely no reason for him to be there. Jaden Brayley has pushed Owen Paddy out of the squad almost entirely. He's named in the reserves at number 22. Apparently, Paddy's got a little bit of an attitude issue. So maybe Ricky's just knocking him down a peg to sort him out. I don't know. It's not like he was very SuperCoach relevant anyway, so who cares? And yeah, Timoko and Nicholson both named here when they are both injured and due back next week. That's what makes me think it's possible that Josh Patson does just have a head knock and could come in for Arama Howe next week. Hopefully we get some solid info around that and we can make a decision before lockout. That does concern me. If Arama Howe does just fall out of the squad entirely and becomes enough, then fine. But I don't want him coming off the bench and scoring me like 20s and being an AE nightmare. Then I have to waste a trade to nuff him out. It's just not ideal. And then we've got Dolphins Rabbitohs. Hammer starts at fullback with Trey Fuller at 17. I doubt he even plays, but if he does get subbed on, he'll bottom out and will be a juicy little option for the Origin period. Cobbo on the outside of Farnworth is great to see, and Gilbert and Flegler starting is also nice to see. No surprises for the absolutely cracked Bunnies lineup. God, they could really do some damage this year. Obviously, Ashton Ward's coming in to cover at halfback for a couple of weeks. He's not an option either. And that's all we've got. I actually managed to power through that pretty quickly. There is a couple of things that hopefully we can get some clarity on, like Josh Patson. At least we got some clarity on the whole Zach Lomax situation. We know that Moses Leo is pretty safe for the meantime, at least until round 10. But yeah, that'll do it for this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new here. Don't forget to leave your bets down in the comments and those will get put on. And best of luck in round one. Hooroo.